Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today I'm doing a Master Duel Thunder Dragon Shaddoll deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this one for you guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Meli. And this deck is an extremely powerful deck that can make some incredible fields like summoning Colossus and Winda to your side of the field at the same time. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like in your name, description of a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. And definitely give Meli some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of Thunder Dragon Dark. Thunder Dragon Dark is definitely a 3-of in the build because this card has the ability that quick effect. You can discard this card to add another copy of Thunder Dragon Dark from your deck to your hand, and if this card is banished or sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add a Thunder Dragon card from your deck to your hand, which is an awesome effect. We then play 2 copies of Thunder Dragon Roar. Roar is definitely a 2-of in the build because you can discard this card and then add to your hand 1 Thunder Dragon card that's banished or in your graveyard to your hand except a copy of Roar. And if this card is banished or sent from the field to the graveyard, you can special summon a Thunder Dragon monster from your deck in defense position, but return it back to the hand during the end phase. But that's an awesome ability to instantly get a monster out on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Thunder Dragon Hawk. Hawk is really good as a 1-of in the build because this card is ability you can discard this card and then special summon a Thunder Dragon monster that's banished or in your graveyard to your side of the field. And if this card is banished or sent from the field to the graveyard, you can shuffle any number of cards from your hand back in the deck and then draw the same number of cards, which is an awesome ability to instantly grab cards from your deck and basically fix your hand. We then also play 3 copies of the original Thunder Dragon. This card is great as a 3-of on the build just to give you light targets to be able to step into your copy of Construct, but this card also is a Thunder monster that can activate its effect in your hand so you can summon out your copy of Colossus, which is awesome, as you can discard this card and then add 2 more copies of the original Thunder Dragon from your deck to your hand, which is such a powerful effect to instantly get more copies of Thunder Dragon in your hand so you can go for more plays. We then play 3 copies of Aloof Lupine. Aloof Lupine is definitely a 3-of in the deck and an awesome normal summon in this build because when this card is normal summon, you can banish a monster from your hand and then banish a monster from your deck with the same type as that monster, which is a really cool effect to be able to use with your Thunder Dragon cards. And if this card is destroyed by battle, or if this card in its own possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can target one of your banished monsters and add it back to your hand, which is a great effect to help you recover your cards. We then play 2 copies of Windy. Windy is really cool as a 2-of in the deck for your Shaddoll monsters, and all of your Shaddoll monsters have a flip effect and an effect when they are sent to the graveyard, but you can only activate either or their effects once per turn. You cannot get both. So for this card's ability, if it's flip face up, you can special summon a Shaddoll monster from your deck in face up or face down defense position except another copy of this card, and if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon a Shaddoll monster from your deck in face down defense position. We then play a single copy of Genius. Genius is really good as a 1-of in the deck, and it's just a really cool card overall because it has the ability when it's flip face up, you can target a Shaddoll monster you control, and that face up monster is unaffected by monster effects this turn except its own, and if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can actually target an effect monster on the field, and neither player can activate that target's effects on the field this turn, which is a great effect to be able to use to basically just use this card as a negate. We then play a single copy of Ariel. Ariel is also really good as a 1-of in the build because this card is able to flip face up. You can target one of your banished Shaddoll monsters and special summon in face up or face down defense, and if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target up to 3 cards in the graveyards and banish them, which is a great effect just to help you deal with cards in the grave. We then play a single copy of Shaddoll Beast. Shaddoll Beast is amazing in this build as a 1-of because it's flip face up. You draw 2 and discard a card, and if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can draw a card. We then play a single copy of Shaddoll Dragon. Shaddoll Dragon is really cool in the deck as 1-of because it's flip face up. You get to target a card your opponent controls and return it back to the hand, and if it's sent to the graveyard, it's an MST, and then you target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it. We then play 2 copies of Squamata. Squamata is one of the most powerful Shaddolls in the entire deck, as if it's flip face up, it's actually a man-eater bug, letting you target a monster on the field and destroy it, and if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can send a Shaddoll card from your deck to the graveyard, which is a great ability to instantly get the exact Shaddoll card you need in the graveyard, like a copy of Beast, so you can draw a card or any of your other Shaddoll monsters. We then play a single copy of Hedgehog. Hedgehog is great in the deck for our final Shadow monster because if this card's flip face up, you can actually add a Shadow spell or trap from your deck to your hand. If it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add a Shadow monster from your deck to your hand, which is a great ability to instantly grab the exact Shadow that you need. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the hand traps. So for the hand trap monsters, guys, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is definitely a 3-of in the build, basically just to stop your opponent from touching the deck, and it's a really powerful hand trap overall. We're then playing 3 copies of Max C. Since it is a Master Duel deck profile, we are playing 3 copies of Max C, basically just to draw a card every time our opponent special summons, and since it is a Master Duel deck profile, you kind of have to play Max C. This card is really good in the deck overall, and it's an insanely broken card in Master Duel. So that's it for the hand traps, guys. Let's get in to the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is great in the deck to help you get the exact monster you need in the graveyard. We then play a single copy of Crossout Designator. Crossout Designator is great in the deck as a 1-of to either stop Ash Blossom or Max C, the 2 most powerful hand traps in all of Master Duel. We then play 2 copies of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is currently at 2 in Master Duel, so we're definitely going to play 2 copies of it, basically just to stop your opponent's hand traps. We're going in for all of our plays. We play a single copy of Thunder Dragon Fusion. Thunder Dragon Fusion is great in this deck as 1-of to help us go in for our Thunder Dragon Fusion plays, and this card lets us fusion summon a Thunder Fusion monster from our extract by shuffling the fusion materials listed on it back in the deck from among cards on the field and in your graveyard, and or face up banished cards, which is such a powerful effect to help us step into cards like Titan or Colossus. This card also says during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish a card in the graveyard to add a Thunder monster from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool ability. We then play 3 copies of Shadow Fusion. Shadow Fusion is definitely a 3-of the deck, and one of those powerful fusion spells ever created. It's going to let you fusion summon a Shadow Fusion monster from your extract using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material, and if your opponent controls a monster that was special summoned from the extract, you can also use monsters from your deck as fusion material, which is insane to instantly go in for your fusion plays, and this card is definitely a 3-of in the deck, because it just helps you go in for all of your awesome fusion plays in this build. We then play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Poly is so good in this deck as a 3-of, just to help you break your opponent's board, and plus all your Shadow monsters are basically Super Poly targets, which is so cool to instantly step into any of your Shadow monsters using the correct attribute, plus a copy of a Shadow monster. We then play 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. Allure of Darkness just goes so well with our Shadow monsters, but especially with our Thunder Dragon monsters, so they can be banished and be able to get their effects to go off, which is so cool to be able to use. So this card is definitely a 3-of in the build. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're just going to be playing 1, and that's going to be a single copy of Schism. Schism is really good as a 1-of. This card is insane to help you summon out your Shadow monsters, because this card is basically Miracle Fusion. That during the main phase, you can fusion summon a Shadow Fusion monster from your extract by banishing the fusion materials listed on it from the field or the graveyard, but it cannot attack directly. Then, you can send to the graveyard 1 monster that your opponent controls with the same attribute as that fusion summon monster, which is insane to be able to use with cards like Construct or Winda to basically just summon out a copy of Winda during the opponent's turn to lock them down. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with Shadow Construct. Shadow Construct is definitely a 2-of in the build, and just an awesome boss monster to be able to summon out to your side of the field. It's one of my favorite boss monsters ever created, and this card requires a Shadow monster plus a Light monster, which is why I chose to actually play the original Thunder Dragon in the deck as well, so we can basically just use those as materials to summon out your copy of Construct. This card has the ability it must first be fusion summoned, and if this card is special summoned, you can actually send a Shadow card from your deck to the graveyard, and at the start of the damage step, if this card battles a special summon monster, destroy that monster, and if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a Shadow spell or trap in the grave and add it back to your hand, which is a great effect. We then play 2 copies of Winda. Wind is definitely a 2-of in the build as well, because this card has a great ability that each player can only special summon monsters once per turn, locking down your opponent, because we're going to establish our board, and then our opponent can only special summon once per turn, which is insane. We then play a single copy of Shikanaga. Shikanaga is really cool as a 1-of deck, so we actually play 4 different targets in the deck, our 3 copies of Max C, and our copy of Genius to be able to make this card. This card is very easy to summon in the deck, and during either player's turn, when a special summon monster effect is activated, its effect during the turn, you have a Shadow card, and you have a Shadow card in your hand. You can negate the activation if you do destroy that monster, then send a Shadow card from your hand to the graveyard, which is a really cool effect. This card is actually a walking negate, and it's one of the best Shadow fusions in the entire game. We then play a single copy of Apocalypse. Apocalypse is just very easy to summon in the deck. It just requires 2 Shadow monsters with different attributes. And this card also has a really cool ability that cannot be destroyed by battle. And if this card is special summoned, you can target a face-up card on the field and negate its effects. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a Shadow card from your deck or graveyard to your hand and then discard a card. We then play 2 copies of Thunder Dragon Colossus. Colossus is very easy to summon in this deck and just an awesome boss monster overall that's basically a walking mistake. And it's very easy to summon because you don't even have to use polymerization to summon it out, as it must either be fusion summoned or special summoned during a turn a thunder monster effect was activated in the hand by attributing any thunder monster on the field that's not a fusion monster, in which case you don't even have to use polymerization. And also, cards cannot be added from the main deck to your opponent's hand except by drawing them, which is such a powerful effect. We then play a single copy of Titan. Titan's just really good overall in the build as a 1-of, because this card is so easy to summon with your copy of Thunder Dragon Fusion, and it's just a really big boss monster that's super easy to summon. We then play a single copy of Mud Dragon and a single copy of Garua. These are both super poly targets and very easy to summon in the deck. We then also play a single copy of Draco Stapelia, because this card is a walking negate and also a great super poly target. We then play a single copy of SP. SP is great in the deck as a 1-of, because this card is basically a double interruption. This card is absolutely amazing in the deck. We then play a single copy of Anaconda. Anaconda is really good as a 1-of in the build, as this card can be used with any of our fusion spells. Plus, since this is a Master Duel deck profile, you can actually play this card at 1 currently. This card is really good in the deck because it copies your fusion spells, and it's a great card in the build. We also play a single copy of Gravity Controller. Gravity Controller is really good to be able to link away your copy of Construct so you can get its effect to go off. And it does come up every so often that you do make your copy of Gravity Controller in this deck. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is absolutely insane to be able to play Thunder Dragon and Shaddoll side by side, because this deck is just absolutely broken and just really cool to be able to play both of them alongside one another, because they're such good archetypes and they work so well together. So that's going to do this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad. We'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.